Mr. Gardner here again, coming back to you with another short lesson, this time about graphing from an equation. Now this lesson really is just going to build upon the last two things we worked on. So we worked on substituting in values into an expression, and when we did that we would get a value out. And then we worked on substituting multiple values into the same expression and using those values to fill in a table. And if you remember when we were doing that, we were using a table like this. We were going x, and then we were calling this side just the value. So we were saying whatever we put into x, we're getting out some value. Now we're going to continue with that same idea that we were working on, but this time instead of saying value, we're just going to set that value to y. So now we're going to add in another variable. But all this is really doing is it's holding the place for what our expression equals out to once we substitute different values in. So if we think about this, all we've really had is the equal sign and the y, and we still have the same expression over here, and we're going to be manipulating the x value, okay, because the y value depends on what we use for x, which is our independent variable. So when we're doing this, I always like to start out with 0, 1, and 2, okay, and you can throw 3 in there as well. But 0, 1, and 2 are some good ones just to start with when we're doing this. So this gives us y equals 2 times 0, which means y equals 0, because 0 times 2 is 0. Alright, so now we will do it again for the other value. So y equals 2 times 1, because I put that 1 in for x, which means y equals 2. So I'll put a 2 in here. And we'll do it for 2. Y equals 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, so y equals 4. And then we'll do y equals 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6, which means y equals 6. Another way of saying that, we could say when x is 2, y equals 4, things like that. So it's just different ways of referring to these things. So now we can see, if we look at these, we have now a table of values. We have our x and our y's. So now we can come over to our handy dandy graph, and we know that our horizontal axis is always our x-axis, and our vertical axis is our y-axis. Okay, and we know that coordinate points come in x, y pairs. Alright, and so we're just going to pair these up. We have an x value and we have y value. So when x is 0, y equals 0. So I'm going to come to my point 0, 0, and I'm going to put a dot here. I'm going to change the color of this here so it's a little easier to see. Let's do that. There we go. And when x equals 1, y equals 2. So we'll go to 1 and 2, and we will put our dot in there. And when 2 is 4, so 2, 4. And then 3 is going to be 6. So that's going to take us right up to the top of our graph here. Then we're just going to connect our line. Hopefully we can do it in somewhat straight manner. If not, if we're on a piece of paper, maybe use a ruler or the edge of our notebooks to straighten out that line. But that's going to show us the line of our equation. So basically the neat thing about this is that wherever this line passes through is a solution to this equation. So I could look at like 5, and if I went up further, 5 is going to pass through at 10. So that'd be right around here. And if you look, my line would go right through that, which means x being 5, y being 10 is a solution to this equation that we see here. Now, one thing I didn't do that is kind of a pet peeve that I'd like us to always do is we definitely want to label our points. So this is 0, 0. This one here is 1, 2. This one here is 2, 4. And this one here is 3, 6. I just always like to get in a habit. Whenever I'm going to put a point down on a graph, I also want to label that point. So that's really important to do that. So there it is. When you have an equation, you substitute values in for the x. Okay, whatever happens when you do that is going to give you your y value. Once you have at least 2 points, because if you look at a line, you only need 2 points to make a line, right? So when you have 2 points, plot them on the graph, connect the line through them, and that's how you graph from an equation.